Moorish nation. Here is another Olmec Atlantean king, 1500 to 1000 BC. The fact that the Olmecs arrived with their civilization fully developed shows that they came from an already existing high civilization, namely Atlantis. The part of the Americas which they settled was actually a part of Atlantis, which was previously uninhabited. In a book entitled The Secret Archives of the Vatican by Maria L. Ambrosini, there was mention of a Hebrew document in the possession of the Vatican stating that the Queen of Sheba had sailed out of the Mediterranean into the Atlantic and there 95 degrees to the westward by an easy passage, which naturally will bring them right here to America. There she found a land fertile and abundant and whose extent surpassed Africa and Europe. Here again, we see that our people were traveling back and forth across the Atlantic long before Columbus. Here again is another Olmec head dating 1500 to 1000 BC. Notice that the dates of these heads correspond exactly with the dates of the destruction of Atlantis, 1500 BC. In later issues of the Journal of the Moorish Paradigm, we will explore the full extent of the domains of Atlantis/Avexis. This is from the pre-classic period, which was approximately 1800 BC to 2250 AD. Archaeology and related sciences as we know it was laid out in the mid-1800s. This was during a time when the Europeans were perfecting their worldwide white supremacy paradigm. Any scholars or models of history which were not in line with the white supremacist paradigm was maligned, ostracized, criticized, punished, or swept under the proverbial rug. This is an Olmec jade dating from 1150 BC from Mexico. Here we see a scribe, very similar to the scribes of the now, Tigris Euphrates, Indus Valley, Niger River, etc. There's so much that we need to cover in this Moorish paradigm. So much of our history has been hidden and suppressed. This is a Olmec jade dating from 1150 BC, Honduras. The Hamitic Phoenician relationship of these objects is known by many European scholars, but because of their white supremacist paradigm, they consciously or unconsciously theorize that these are representations of the slaves of the Phoenician navigators and not the Phoenicians themselves. This would be the first instance in history of slave masters going to such an extent to honor their slaves. Honors such as cutting stones from quarries, some weighing up to 60 tons, carving representations of their slaves, and then transporting them 60 miles to locations where they were found. Common sense always conquers white supremacy. There is another Olmec statue from Jalisco, Mexico, from the pre-classic to the early classic period. The Olmecs originated a famous calendar system in this hemisphere, one which the European scholars considered the long-count calendar to be near perfect, for it interweaves cycles within cycles of time and is extremely accurate. It is accurate within seconds over hundreds of years. The Olmecs and their successors, the Maya, were masters of time and chronology, as well as astrology and geometry, or geometry. Geo meaning earth and metry meaning measurement. The calendar and counting system was bi-decimal, or based on the number 20. This system is still in use in parts of Africa today. This is from Jalisco, Mexico, pre-classic to early classic. This is another Olmec work from Tres Zapotes, The long shaft was most likely inserted into a hole in the wall of the temple so that the head would protrude from the wall. Look carefully at the face. There can be no mistaking who were the Olmecs and the descendants of ancient Atlantis. The reason why Atlantis is shrouded in such mystery is because Atlantis is the dominion of Amexa, the land of the Prophet Noble Ali claimed in our behalf as the inheritance from our ancestors. Our legacy, Atlantis, and its description by Plato lends confirmation of the metes and bounds of our inheritance as described by the Prophet Noble Ali in the deed of conveyance. This is a Miztec head, a region slightly south of the Olmec region, and of a more recent date. Notice the large earring. Ferdinand Columbus, Columbus's son, said, referring to our people here, the people who live further east, as far as Cape Gracios or Dios, he says, are almost black in color and pierce holes in their ears large enough to insert hen's eggs. In the following picture of a massive Olmec head, will be seen the same ear piercing mentioned by Columbus's son. Large earring in the right ear shows that the people Columbus's son saw are the same people as the Olmecs. Our history is documented to go back at least 3,000 years before Columbus was even a thought. There are no stone monuments of any race earlier than these Olmec heads. So one could say that the so-called stereotypical quote-unquote Indians were here first, but there is no evidence to prove it. But here is physical evidence, concrete evidence, so to speak, of our civilization here going back at least 3,500 years. The next series of pictures will all be of the famous Maya, successors of the Olmecs. Notice the skin colors, features, and mannerisms. Once again, we can plainly see that they are the ancient Moors, descendants of Ham, Canaan, Cush, and Moab. Here we have a dark-skinned king wielding a gigantic jade staff, standing on the back of what looks like a flying vehicle in the form of a serpent. Here we have a picture of a Mayan warrior. Look very closely. Notice the skin color. With the scarf tied around his head, he looks just like Shaka Zulu or even Brother Tupac. Here's a picture of Mayan nobles. Notice the braids and the mannerisms. The Mayans used hieroglyphic writing, very similar to that used in Egypt. Here is a picture of Mayan rulers, nobles, and lords. Notice their dark skin. The Mayan social order was set up how our civilization was set up all over the world. A series of kings unified under one king of kings, a sort of monarchical federal system. Here we see a gathering of various kings and a sort of congress. Here we see a picture of a Mayan ruler and attendants. Notice the brother in back of the ruler smoking a cigar. You can always tell when you are looking at one of us just by the mannerisms. Here is a picture of Mayan princes and rulers presenting kings with gifts. Egypt. In the book Before Columbus, Links Between the Old World and Ancient America by Cyrus H. Gordon, he says, quote, the kings of Atlantis forged an empire embracing Atlantis, many islands, parentheses Caribbean, part of that continent in the west, which was the Americas, North Africa up to Egypt, and Europe up to Etruria. Again, this is the exact description of our legacy inherited from our forefathers and mothers and put into a trust by the Prophet Noble Ali for our benefit. Once you reclaim your nationality as a Moor, you have now a beneficiary interest in that trust. Notice the Mayan brother, second from the